Gentlemen, it is the chair's great honor to recognize Representative Nancy Mace. Representative Mace.
Thank you. I love y'all, but I'm gonna wipe down. I'm wiping down the podium.
Sterile ones in the back.
Sterile. Oh, right here. Got it. Okay. And y'all are making me tear up before I even get started today. And Mr. Speaker, thank you for that. When I came to you to ask to be on judiciary and make the pitch, I was, to my shock and awe and my surprise, I did not have to swear or sign a blood oath to get in there. And appreciate the opportunity and confidence that you had in me to serve on judiciary. Serving in House District 99 has been the honor of my lifetime. And I didn't think 3 years ago that I would be exiting the chamber today, but I am. And first and foremost, I want to thank my children who are not here today because they're at home doing virtual school. And I want to give them, as a single mother who's worried about her children's education this year more than ever, I want to give them every opportunity to be successful. So they are on Zoom calls all day today, but to Miles and Ellie, I want to say thank you, and Mommy loves you. Thank you for letting me be me and to run for office. This will be my 6th election in about 3 years. It's a lot. And every one of you in this room, I know how hard you sacrifice to be here in this chamber, but also your families make enormous sacrifices for you all to be here. About a year and a half ago, 15, 17 months ago, my daughter Ellie came to me one afternoon and she said, "Mommy, I'm Christian and I believe in Jesus Christ and I want to go to church." And so the spring of last year, I took my children to church one evening. It was a Saturday evening, 6:30 p.m. church. I hadn't seen the inside of a church for a very, very long time. And the sermon that night was about being at a crossroads. It was Jeremiah 6:16. It was standing at a crossroads and to look for the good path and to walk it. And as I heard this sermon, my oldest son, Miles, was sitting next to me, and I started tearing up. And as I watched the tears drip to the floor off my face, my son put his arms around me and hugged me, and he said, "Mommy, I love you. It's going to be okay." I was going through my divorce. I was here in the State House, loved the work that I'm doing here. I love each and every one of you. I love the work that we've done in the last 3 years that I've served with each of you. But I also had a decision to make on whether or not I was going to run for re-election. And so I chose a different path, and I needed my family, I needed my children to be with me. And so I thank them today, and I thank each of you, each of my colleagues here today, for the inspiration, the influence, the camaraderie, the friendship, the things that I have learned from each and every one of you, because I could not imagine 25 years ago that I would be serving the state of South Carolina, representing my hometown in State House District 99. 25 years ago, I was a 17-year-old kid who had experienced great trauma in her life, and I dropped out of school. I gave up on myself because I didn't believe I could move forward. I could not progress. And the principal of my high school believed in me at a time when I did not believe in myself. And that man is named George McCracken, the principal of Stratford High School, also a graduate of the Citadel, allowed me to go to Trident Technical College in North Charleston to take up a few classes and get high school credit for them. 6 months later, I had my high school diploma. I shook his hand in the doorway of Stratford High School in Goose Creek in my hometown. There was no pomp and circumstances, no cap and gown, no audience, no speeches. I haven't been back since. I actually graduated a year early, and when I quit school, my dad, a retired Army general, my mom, a retired school teacher, at the time when I dropped out of school, she was teaching computers and keyboarding at my high school. And they said, if you're going to stop going to school, well, you've got to start going to work. And I worked many jobs in high school. One of my favorites was when I was a waitress at the Waffle House on College Park Road in Ladson. And that's exit 203 when you make your way into Charleston, right off the interstate. And I used to stand on a piece of duct tape about 12 inches long, and I would yell to the cooks in the back how my customers wanted their hash browns. Smothered, covered, and chunked. And I learned some very tough lessons during some very tough times, but this time in my life, I learned about the value of hard work. I learned about having grace and giving grace, about forgiving and being forgived. And I learned that when you stumble, you can pick yourself back up again and start over. I learned about having and living second chances because my life in its entirety has been a series of second chances. And in 1995, when I got my high school diploma, that was in 1995. In 1996, the Citadel decided to let women in. I didn't go there to be the first woman to graduate from the Citadel. I went there to follow in my father's footsteps. He is the highest decorated living graduate of the Citadel. He served 2 tours in Vietnam in combat and one in the Dominican Republic in 1965 when they had the coup d'etat. To say I felt like I failed myself and my family when I dropped out of school would be an understatement. So I went to the Citadel because I had something to prove to myself, that I could go to a place, that I could be challenged, that I could face enormous obstacles unlike I'd ever faced, that I would face adversity day in and day out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and that I would not give up, that I would not quit, not on myself, not on my family, not on my friends, not on anyone. And I learned about having courage when I was at the Citadel. Courage not only to speak up for myself, but courage to speak up for others. To give a voice to the voiceless, to not be afraid of the consequences when we speak up. I also learned about having confidence. If we do not believe in ourselves, then no one will believe in us. And that's true in business. That's true in politics today. That's true as a mom. As a single mom, my kids are in virtual school. They don't want me hovering over them. But I have to have the confidence to ensure that I can get my children to do what they need to do so that they too can be successful. And when I graduated from the Citadel, graduated at the top of my class, I never thought that could happen. But I remember the first time I was in the chamber with Representative Gilda Cobb-Hunter receiving a resolution about graduating after I graduated from the Citadel. And we have a picture from that many, many years ago, 21 years ago, standing up there with you and Representative Shirley Hinson at the time from Goose Creek. It's amazing to be back in this chamber again, learning from each and every one of you. And I am proud of the accomplishments that we've had in the last 3 years, whether it's serving on judiciary or some of the legislative accomplishments that we've had. I have learned so much. Russell, thank you for being my friend and a confidant. I appreciate you. I've learned so much. Representative Cobb-Hunter, every speech you give, I admire your tenacity and your ability to speak from the heart. I've learned so much in this room when Representative Gilliard's giving us talking points in history on Black history, something many of us in this chamber do not know. You've educated so many of us on those issues that are important to Charleston and the Lowcountry, giving a voice to those that do not have one. And to serve with some great civil rights heroes, Leola Robinson Simpson. When I read your story and realized I was serving with you in this chamber, I admire you. And I tell that story, tell it to my daughter and her friends about the remarkable things that so far this country has come, and we have so many wonderful heroes. People have served their country and are serving their communities each and every day here in the State House. The very first bill I ever filed was on my 4th day in the chamber. After I got over being a deer in headlights, after Nene, who I've nicknamed Mama, Representative Erickson, I was like a deer in headlights. But on my very fourth day in office, I filed my first bill, and that was an anti-offshore drilling measure. The very first rally I ever spoke at here on the State House grounds was an anti-offshore drilling rally. I've even participated in anti-seismic testing events down in Charleston. I believe that much in conservation and the environment. I'm proud of the 100% lifetime record I have with the conservation voters of South Carolina. That is an issue, Republican or Democrat, we've been able to make strides on. In fact, before the president put a ban on offshore drilling off South Carolina's coast for the next decade, it was the members of this chamber who, through a provision in the budget, essentially effectively banned offshore drilling by prohibiting the development of inland infrastructure along South Carolina's coast. Something that we've all worked very hard on, and something I'm proud that we have accomplished over the last few years. And although I am conservative, y'all know how conservative I am, I'm also proud of my record of reaching across the aisle and working with both parties just to get something done. So oftentimes we hear a bunch of noise in the media, but the work is done here. And you all are a tremendous group, a tremendous body to work with. And when I passed the prison reform bill, my inmate shackling bill, that was done entirely unanimously when it made it to the governor's desk. Not a single Republican or Democrat voted against that bill. And I want to thank Representative Beth Bernstein for helping me get it through the Judiciary Committee and helping us get it through the floor and getting it passed in both chambers. I cannot thank you enough. I'm also proud of the work that we've done here last year for veterans. Being the daughter of a military vet, my father served 28 years in the Army. He was exposed to Agent Orange when he was in Vietnam. I have witnessed him having lifelong health complications from his exposure to Agent Orange. And last year, this body passed the South Carolina Department of Veterans Affairs, where we recognize veterans who served in every foreign war. We recognize veterans who were deployed after 9/11. We recognize the need to have the director of the South Carolina Department of Veteran Affairs to actually be a veteran. And so when the federal government fails those when they come home, South Carolina is here to help take care of them. And we did this together. But as I look at our future, I look at my children, I see the fear in their eyes. I hear the fear when I talk to my neighbors. We now, I would have never said this a year ago when I was looking at where I was in my personal and professional life, being at a crossroads. But when I see what is going on across our communities, across our state, across our nation, we are at a tremendous crossroads right now. We can make the decision to bail on the American experiment and the American dream, but I know that is not the direction that our nation needs to go in. We have the choice between freedom or the government being responsible for all. We have the choice between safety and security or anarchy. And your zip code, your job, your income level should not determine how well you are educated or your job opportunities when you graduate from school. And I look at my life and see the chances that I've had, the opportunities I've had to fail and then succeed over and over again, that I still have hope that we can be the beacon on the hill that Reagan always talked about. That the American dream, if we choose the right path, is there for each and every one of us, regardless of your party affiliation or your political beliefs, religious, etc. One of the greatest achievements that I've had here in the chamber, and half of it, what we do is ideological and policy and legislative, but no one knows the work that you all do day in and day out when you're working with your constituents. About 15 months ago, I had a mom who lives in my State House district call me. And I have no idea what her political affiliation is. I still don't know today. Don't care. It does not matter. But she called me screaming and yelling and crying, and by the end of the conversation, I was also in tears. Her adult daughter, who lives and works in downtown Charleston, does not live in my district, was diagnosed with breast cancer. Lateral breast cancer, meaning on one side. And her surgical team, her cancer team, everyone said that she needed to have a bilateral procedure, have both breasts removed. If she didn't, she had an 80% chance of the cancer returning. And the insurance company was not going to cover her bilateral procedure because she had not had the genetic test, what is called the BRCA test, before being diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm 42 years old. I have no idea what the genetic test was called. I don't know where you get it. I have no idea how much it costs, and I don't know if insurance even covers it. And I said, I can't make any promises, but let me make a phone call, because I knew a guy at the insurance company. So I called very first thing the next morning, and 3 hours later, he called me back and said the medical team re-reviewed the file, and they were now going to cover the procedure 100%. Each and every one of us in this room today have those stories. When our constituents call, we pick up the phone and we help them. And that is the greatest thing that I have accomplished. The policy is one thing, I love it, but I love helping the people in the community that I grew up in. And when I look at where we are right now and the help that people need, whether it's trying to survive COVID-19, which, by the way, is a very serious illness. I had one afternoon while I was sick where I had a blood oxygen level of 87 temporarily. I struggled to catch my breath. And my oldest child turned to me and said, Mommy, you sound like Darth Vader when you breathe. So I ask each and every one of you to take this illness seriously, to distance, to wear the masks, to be thoughtful and mindful, because at 42, I was very sick, and I shouldn't have been. I'm healthy and I'm active. But when I look at our future, I look at what we've done, I also look at what we've not done, and there's so much more to do. When we're talking about law enforcement, I can't even believe right now that we are debating law and order in this country and keeping people safe. I'm asking that in the future, that we go back and we look at the law enforcement training, the police academy bill that I'd started. And I ask y'all to take it up again. Our police and our law enforcement, our men and women in uniform, need more resources, not less. We need each and every community in South Carolina, regardless of zip code, income level, color of your skin, to be safe and secure. When they call 911, we want the police to show up. The other thing that I asked that we have not done yet, that I worked on, was after Parkland, Florida. And after Mother Emanuel and I saw what happened, we started a law enforcement data bill, which doesn't touch the Second Amendment. But when we look at what happened with Dylan Roof and the criminal data that is in different databases across the state and doesn't connect or talk to each other, if we do one thing, we can pass that bill and ensure that anyone, a Dylan Roof or anyone else, we can ensure that that information is in one place, and that a person like that, filled with hate and racism, doesn't have the opportunity again to harm and murder innocent people in our state. Growing up in Goose Creek, being a girl from Goose Creek, I realized the difference between rich and poor is literally black and white. And that's why these issues are so important, why I'm so passionate about them. And lastly, I want to say that I love each and every one of you. It has been an honor to serve with you, and I know you will do great things in the future. All I ask today and going forward in our future and over the next few weeks and months, that we think about the crossroads where we are at today, that we stand at the crossroads together and we look, that we look for a better path, and that we take it. Thank you, and God bless, and I love each and every one of you. Thank you.
Representative Nancy Mace. Nancy, we will miss you.